Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for the making of Breonna's garden. Before I introduce our speakers, I have a few quick things to go over. Please take a moment to read our code of conduct. We ask that you be kind and respectful to everyone, including our speakers. We want the reactors to be a place that everyone feels welcome. Please ask questions using our live YouTube chat. In the chat, we'll also be sharing some links that go along with today's content, as well as our Reactor website, if you're interested in checking out what other sessions we have coming up. Today's session will also be added to our Reactor YouTube page in 24 to 48 hours. And then finally, towards the end, we'll be sharing a link to our Reactor survey. If you have a few minutes, we greatly appreciate your feedback. We're now going to play a short video, and then once that is done, we'll bring our speakers on for some chat and Q&A.
We're here to invite people into the opportunity of knowing about her as a person, as a sister, as someone's fiance and lover, as someone's daughter.
Wow. Wow. It was very moving, really intense. Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful.
Left indelibly a place in this world, and I don't think it would be anywhere different without her, because she put her stamp on this world.
But it was so amazing to be able to see her family and have them bring their stories of her alive. And it was such a beautiful, enriching experience to be in that garden with everyone's memories of this very wonderful human being who's no longer on this earth. But I'm so glad I got to visit in her garden. Thank you for that.
I recommend you take a walk through the garden. I promise you, it will open your mind and open your heart.
What a gift. What a gift that we get to keep talking about it, that we get to have a space that is nothing to do with what took her life away, but more to do with who she was as a person and the way that she inspired so many people.
I think Breonna, she would have been very gung-ho about it. So just to imagine herself as a character.
Janiyah will direct me 3A and B.
My name is Chyna Palmer, and Breonna is my big sister. To see the garden the first time, it was very emotional because it's like, geez, I get to see her again, even though it's not physical. And I was really excited because it's like I get to see my sister again, and then it put me and her in the same set.
Breonna would just take this and she would direct this thing like, let's go.
Tell us about Breonna's earliest influences with nursing and taking care of people.
Breonna was 7 years old. Found out my mother was sick. She was diabetic, so she was having to, do blood sugars and have insulin. She needed to be there every day to make sure that my mother blood sugar was taken or that she was drawing up insulin and giving it to her. I just think that it was, you hate that Breonna have to be the symbol for that story, right? But I don't know a better person who could have brought people together, who could have engaged so many people at so many different levels and races and ages and just walks of life. This reaches a different audience. It reaches those group of people that so they now know where they stand in this fight and what it is that they can be doing and how they get to learn and engage in her story and keep it going. So I think everybody has a responsibility to all these stories like hers and so many more.
Hi, everyone. Welcome today to the Making of Breonna's Garden. I am a senior technical program manager at Microsoft, working in the mixed reality area, as well as the leader of Black at Microsoft in mixed reality. It's an employee resource group focused on community, product, and talent. And we had an incredible opportunity to partner up with Dr. Perez, as well as Jason, and of course, the venerable, honorable Lady Phoenix, creator of Breonna's Garden, where we got to team up for the last year and make this incredible, moving, powerful experience come to life. So today, we're just going to have a living room conversation. We're going to hang. We're going to talk about some of the technical components, the art that came together, the background, the story, and then we'll open it up for questions. Feel free to post those questions as we go. We will stick to the project, the topic, and lifting each other up. We will not be answering questions about the case or the nature of the case or anything of that nature. So keep that in mind, keep your hearts lifted, and let's get going. So Lady Phoenix, thank you so much for joining us on the panel today. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. I feel like I'm always learning something new. Can you share a little bit about how this experience came together?
Thank you for having me. I'm really honored to be here to speak with all of you. We've been musketeers together, sometimes in the foxhole and then other times on the stage with everyone clapping. It's like, how did we pull this together? Definitely takes the intelligence of the heart to put a project together like this as well as we did. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. This project came together first through observation. I felt as I was observing the case through the news, I just felt like something was missing. We weren't being told the whole story. And so I took to social media, which brings us a little bit closer together, and started following her sister, Chyna, whom you all saw in the video. And I learned so much more about Breonna as a person. And I thought to myself, why isn't this in the news? Why is CNN or MSNBC or any of these other channels kind of speaking about her like she didn't have a whole full life and people who loved her? Often in the news and newspapers, they wouldn't even say her name. They would just call her the woman or the medical worker. And so in following her sister, it's when I saw through stories that her sister was getting death threats for simply grieving in her own digital community, that I sprung into action and called my good friend and legendary artist, Sutu, and said, hey, buddy, I'd love for you to collaborate with me on this project. And he said, is it something crazy? And I said, yeah, it's probably pretty crazy. Because this was at the height of like 2020 in the summer, where there seemed to be a new demonstration or protest in some city around the world every day. Certainly in the States, everything was kind of like, at 10, on the scale of like 1 to 10, it was probably honestly a 12. Everyone was on the edge of their seats. And I thought, well, I'm not going to join a protest. I live in California and I've got things here. I've got like my family and like my plants. I just started a garden. So I'm like, I can't really go far from home, but in my capacity as a human being and as a creative person, what can I do? And so I drew upon that and called my good buddy Sutu, who's a legendary AR and VR artist, and said, let's bring this to the public and let's honestly do this for Chyna. If she can't grieve on social media, within the safety of her digital community, where can she go? She went from being a regular person saying, see you later, to returning home. And now her home is a crime scene. She literally can't go inside. She can't even, stand on the sidewalk. Many people don't know that Chyna, Kenny, Breonna's partner, and Breonna all lived together. And so her immediate community and family was disrupted. Her home is a crime scene and she's heartbroken and homeless at this point. And I thought, well, she could essentially enter a metaverse environment that would be a cocoon of love and wellness and memory. And maybe that would bring her the space and peace she needed to grieve her sister in a way that she felt would really honor her sister, but also honor her own heart. So that's the impetus. That's where we started.
Thank you for, I really love the way that you wrap that story together. The cocoon is such a great descriptor of, I feel like, what this experience is. So can you talk a little bit about how, Dahlia got involved and the Microsoft group?
Yeah, absolutely. The Microsoft moment was actually the magical moment. It's kind of when everything came together. Because as I said, I called my buddy Sutu and I'm like, I have a crazy idea. And he's like, is it crazy? Like, yeah, it's probably pretty crazy. Um, yeah, and so I didn't know anyone. I've never done anything like this before. I mean, I started as an art curator, so actually getting involved and now taking kind of like my concepts and bringing them into this space felt really new and scary. So I was fortunate to have Sutu kind of be not only my friend and technical director, artistic director, but someone who actually was just like, hey, we need a network for this. This is a really cute idea and it's really heartfelt, but it's just going to stay cute and heartfelt without people to actually also put their hearts behind it and their network. So he called Joanna, who's the executive producer, Joanna Popper, and Joanna said, okay, I have a friend at Metastage and I know people at Microsoft. Let me see if they would be interested. And I thought to myself, oh man, like Microsoft, I don't think they're going to be interested. This is like everyone's protesting. There's probably people right now on the campus at Microsoft in Redmond trying to like it was a heavy time. It felt like there was a protest every day on every corner everywhere. Even preschoolers were protesting. It was really deep in 2020. And so I just thought, well, sure, Microsoft, if they say yes, this would be like a miracle. And of course they were like, this sounds great. Yes, we'll be involved. And the first person I spoke to about it was Dahlia, and she got it straight away. And I was like, what? This is awesome. This is great. People who actually see this vision, because at the time, and still now, the name Breonna Taylor was quite controversial. It felt like the nation was very divided around it. And so for a corporation and specifically people within big tech to say, hey, I see the vision, I see how necessary this is for this time, but not just this time, the future, and yes, we'll support you, was miraculous. It was actually one of the happiest days for me during 2020. So I remain eternally grateful for people who apply the intelligence of their heart as well as their profession to forward creative projects and allow technology to really open up the hearts, but also demonstrate what tech can do beyond just making us comfortable or entertained. It can actually move us into action and have us tap into the deeper sort of like wells of who we are as humanity. And I felt in 2020, we really needed that. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dahlia.
Real quickly, if you wouldn't mind, real quickly, I think it's odd. Well, I mean, I remember being a part of when you came to us and getting a chance to say yes was amazing. But maybe you could talk a little bit about, I don't know if everybody here has a full sense of what the experience is, and maybe we're talking about the first part of the experience, and maybe why you came to us. So I know you sort of said right off the bat that when you talked to Joanna, friend at Metastage, and also Microsoft, can you talk a bit about why? I mean, Sudo has been in the tech space for a while for both AR and VR. I know that you've been involved in the tech space. What sort of brought you to the idea that you might need Microsoft to help make this come true? Because I think for me, the sort of the tech part that you came to us for is part of what unlocks the sort of the heart and the magic. And I'd love to hear sort of your guys' original thought of why you wanted to come to us in the beginning part.
Absolutely. And thank you for asking that. I wasn't sure how deep and technical we can get on some of these things, but it was for the mixed reality. Microsoft has some of the best mixed reality technologies and supports some of the greatest companies out there. Metastage in particular, Sutu and I had done a visit because I was consulting for a VR company at the time who wanted to enter Web3 before Web3 was all blown up. And Sutu and I actually did a studio visit to Metastage before they moved to where they are now, but for a different client and project. And so when I realized, or when Sutu told me, oh, this is actually Microsoft, I was blown away. I'm like, oh, I didn't realize that Microsoft had their interest this deep into into 360 video, into volumetrics. And so it was for that. I feel like these, and we've talked about this, Jason, these are living statues, or living histories. And there's no better time than right now to actually capture both this, where it feels like we're at this kind of juncture, right? Where the world has completely changed, but not everyone fully realizes it yet. And so histories and tribes and relations, all of this is changing. And I feel the best way to capture that change, or encapsulate that change, is with XR, specifically volumetric video. Breonna's godson just entered school. Yesterday was his first day of school. And yeah, he's really cute. And when Breonna was taken from him, he was really a baby. He was probably, I don't know, like 2 years old. And for when he grows up, he's going to look back on this history. He needs a true account, as lifelike as possible, of who was there and what happened. And a project like this, especially with mixed reality volumetric capture, gives him the opportunity to see Janiyah as she, was at the time of the story, to see Breonna and Janiyah's mother, Miss Tamika, to see Kenny, to really see a living history of the time. And I think that's extremely important. Even though Breonna is, not volumetrically captured, to have the volumetric right next to the 3D representation of Breonna, putting that in VR together, like all of that is nuts. I mean, so should we talk about the, I mean, this is a living room session, so anybody just jump in, but should we talk about the photogrammetry with the volumetric, with the VR? Because that's pretty magical and amazing. I don't know if you want to kick that off, Jason.
Well, yeah. Again, I actually think maybe talking a little bit about the AR experience first. So I don't know if people know the first part of this is that the very first version of the garden is an AR piece, and then the second part became the VR piece, and that's what the video that was shown sort of really gets into. And maybe just talk a little bit about the AR component about. AR basically, I don't want to feed you too much, but the sense of AR basically allows you to create a garden anywhere. And when you came to us, the idea of basically capturing at least one or two of the family and close members, as you mentioned, Janiyah, that sense of having a person give testimony and witness to who Breonna is. And then the way you guys constructed the garden was really this opportunity to let other people come into a physical space, an emotional space, and then sort of maybe leave some of their own sense of who they are, their relationship to Breonna or to others. Can you maybe talk a little bit deeper about that? The AR part, its own kind of thing, and it kind of developed into the later part, which is the VR part.
Gotcha.
Given the AR, some props is really definitely worthwhile, especially up front.
Definitely. And feel free to feed me. This is a dialogue. So if you have something on your heart and mind that you want to highlight, please feel free. So I'll take it even further back and give you guys the root of the AR and how it started. We wanted to, I thought it was important that everyone have access to this. And around the time, the big topic for Breonna was the no-knock warrant. And so initially, having AR allowed Breonna to come into everyone's home. It was this whole, and the initial sort of, I wanted the project to help change policy. And so the initial thought was, well, with Breonna being able to enter everyone's home through AR, it's more intimate. It is emotional. You're inviting her in. Whereas the people who took her life had no invitation. They literally falsified evidence and then just, busted down the door. But, and so I felt like with AR, with the invitation to understand her story, hear the memories, there's a deeper relationship there, and there's an allowing and a permission, and sort of people are letting their guard down. And so that's initially why AR, for access, but then also for Breonna to be in people's homes, since that was the center, the home was the center of sort of where everything started with her, started and ended. And so that was the impetus behind the AR in the beginning, access and then the intimacy. But what we realized quickly by, demoing some of the earlier versions of the project on our phones is that it's not enough to simply hear memories or talk about the no knock. We changed directions, and I was like, I want everyone to feel like this garden is theirs too. Sure, it's Breonna's garden, and you'll hear memories of her family. It's a safe space for grieving, but not just for Breonna. Like, the entire nation needs a safe space for grieving. The entire nation needs to feel that intimacy is real and not going to be, broken or disturbed, or compromised by anything in the outside world. If they have something to say, they can say it in the garden, and that's the safe space, whether it's something for the family, Breonna, or whether it's sharing a memory of their loved ones. So many people lost loved ones in 2020. It wasn't just about, Breonna's loss. It was really the nation's loss, and sort of collaterally what people were feeling, psychically, emotionally, spiritually. Everything was disrupted at the foundation. And so I felt like AR, because it allowed people to still feel safe but didn't remove them from their environment, was the best way to reach folks and interact with folks and start a dialogue about the preciousness of life, not just the one, Breonna's life, but all of us together.
I want to jump in too. One of the things I love about that this project started with AR is how accessible this has been to so many people all around the world, right? It's like we're all on these devices. And I think to many people, like, the metaverse still feels like this very abstract idea, but the idea of getting an app on your phone and being able to engage in a movement. And there was many reasons that, so many of us didn't necessarily take to the streets. COVID was raging. There was a lot of fear. A lot of us have elders. I have 2 young kids at my house, and I got to pull up the AR app of Breonna's Garden and show my young children and talk to them about Breonna in our living room, literally, and parent around it. And I also just, like, Lady Fee, I could listen to you forever. And I feel like I played a small and pivotal part in this project at the beginning, but it has been such an honor. Again, my name is Dr. Dalia Perez. I'm a senior program manager for diversity, equity, and inclusion here at Microsoft in the mixed reality space. And I think a lot of tech is working on how do we figure out our values of DEI and turn this sort of like Titanic ship around of an industry in a world that has been predominantly white, predominantly male, and a lot of the DEI work, right, like, centers this sort of and I was new to this role when I learned about this project. I think I was just a few months in, and a lot of it is kind of activating and supporting historically marginalized people inside of tech, like our internal people. Like, we're people who do DEI work in tech are kind of side by side with HR in many ways. And this project was really this opportunity to break out of that paradigm and to think about how can the metaverse, how can XR technology be used as a space for social movements, be used as a space to activate change, to change policy. My gosh, Lady Fee, when the news came out the other day, I mean, everyone, when the news came out the other day of the police who killed Breonna being federally charged, I was like, I feel not, and Chyna and I and Jason were on a call yesterday. Not that this project gets to take credit, but the power of saying her name, saying Breonna Taylor, of keeping the story alive. And, one of the things that I also love about this project is how central Breonna's family is to guiding and directing this project. I think when we're doing DEI work in tech, that principle of nothing for us without us is super critical. That centered in this project is Janaya, is Miss Tamika, Kenny, the voices of the family and what they want, what their wishes are, how they want to remember their loved one. There's so much love and family connection at the center of this project. And really, like, this project has been part of keeping Breonna's name alive in this different way. And it's just been such an honor to be part of it. And, Chyna is our leader of the BAMMR at Mixed Reality community. BAMMR is Black at Microsoft. And we've got a chapter of that in the mixed reality space. And, Chyna really acted as like the lead here, activating our BAMMR community, lighting up this project. It became like a huge source of inspiration for the people on our team to support not only the technical components as needed, but to offer sponsorship to the project, to feel super, super proud that our work could be part of something, some part of justice in this moment. So anyway, Lady Fee, it's been like such a gift, Breonna's Garden, to the world, and such an honor that Microsoft has gotten to support in this kind of behind the scenes way. And, so many hands on, so many collaborators and supporters, and Chyna at the helm on the Microsoft end, and, Jason behind the scenes in those capture studios. And like, what an incredible project.
Definitely. Can I just say something really quickly? Thank you for all of that, Dr. Dahlia Perez, because when I met you, you were Dahlia Perez. Girl, congratulations. I don't know if that doctor is new, but you know what? I'm celebrating.
It's been there.
Yeah. Oh, it has? Because
Yeah.
I felt inspired. I was like, okay, Dr. Dahlia.
Yeah.
You better let him know. Yeah, so giving you your flowers on that. Congratulations. It's new to me. But I wanted to say two things. So you highlighted about policy and having family. I personally was scared of, I was afraid of being shot because they were people were getting shot at protests by police, by, extremists. And so personally, I decided I definitely cannot join any protests. It's just not safe. But, I applaud the people who are out in the streets, like her family, on a daily basis. And I think the project, in terms of what you were saying about policy, conceptually, I wanted to be a bit more direct. But after, we kept mulling over the project, kept going over it, it was like, okay, is there a more subtle, more loving, more compassionate way to make this change, right? To impact humanity, to show that there are ways to tell stories about marginalized people that don't have to do with glorifying death, but actually talking about her life, placing her family at the center, placing love at the center, and seeing if that can move the needle on the arrest, on her case, on anything. And yeah, I don't think the project can take credit for sure, but I do definitely feel for a year of work with all of our love, with being at Tribeca, with being invited to South by Southwest. We've been invited to Grace Hopper because the CEO saw the project at South by and was like, I have to share this with my community. We've toured Art Basel, right? We've been in a lot of places. We've been on NPR, Good Morning America. The story has been shared and it's gotten out there. And I think it would not surprise me if the DOJ himself saw or heard any of, like, NPR, A Good Morning America, or any of these other places that we've been, or news. It would not surprise me if they heard the story of that, and it gave them an opportunity to maybe take a second look or reconsider some part of the case. I think this has been a quiet storm. There's been people in Sweden, in Hong Kong, pretty much all over the world who've been inspired by the work that we've done. People within the mixed reality community have been inspired by what we've done. This has been an incredible project that, most importantly, the goal was to give Janaya a place to heal, or a tool to heal with. And she has had the most incredible blossoming. And she's going back to school. This project has helped her deal with her depression. It's brought her closer to her mother and other family members. It's brought the family at large together, and that was one thing that Breonna was definitely known for, bringing people together and caring for them, not just physically, but caring for their heart. So yeah, this project has, I think, played its own role in like folks being arrested and folks having to take accountability for what happened. And this project really seeks to keep Breonna's legacy in full bloom, and that's that legacy of togetherness, of justice, of love, of healing. So we definitely would not be able to have done any of this without this team and without your initial yes, Dahlia, and of course the guidance of Chyna. It hasn't just been technical, you guys. As I've been saying throughout this conversation, there's an intelligence in the heart. It's to me, that's a type of technology. There's intelligence like in wisdom that makes wisdom a type of technology, and you guys brought those other types of technology that go beyond ones and zeros or hardware and software to this project. And this is what made the project sing. This is where people felt deeply impacted in their heart, and we're so thankful that this project existed for her family, but also for them as well. So I think with technology and compassion and consciousness and movements that go beyond like angry protest and sad protest, there's a movement for us to evolve as a humanity, to evolve our love, and to have technology reflect that. And so I think we did a really good job at that. And again, thank you all.
So one of my favorite parts of the AR experience and the stories that come out of it is that Breonna gets rebranded and affiliated with life. That is probably my favorite aspect of that. And the idea to invite the world to submit their own message of loss, of healing, of grieving, of hope. And this has been out for a year. And by receiving all of these messages to kind of catch folks up, if you haven't experienced the AR piece, is with it's she who plants a flower, plants hope. This is the ethos that Lady Phoenix was driving toward. And when you submit a message, a new flower is planted in the garden. It's growing. It literally is a digitally growing garden. So the next time that you visit the app, you may experience different stories. And not all of them are about Breonna. Some of them are about people who lost folks during the pandemic, or there's just some really beautiful stories. There's a beautiful conversation of a father to his unborn child. Get in there, and I assure you there is a story there that's going to touch you, that is going to surprise you in that experience. So Lady Phoenix, thank you for thinking about that aspect of participation, because it really fueled that next level of embedding it into the VR experience.
Right on. Jason, do you want to talk to us about the VR experience? Because we did some cool stuff there too. Like Breonna's, I've always had Breonna sort of like guiding the hand of this project, and definitely her family too. We've also just like blown their minds. Like Kenny, when he first put the HoloLens on his head and saw himself in a mixed reality situation, he was blown, so much so that, it's kind of shaped his career path. He's like, how do I get more of this? How can I be more involved? I talked to Janaya just the other day or the other week, and she's, she'll be in school in January. And I said, would you consider, she wants to work with children. I said, would you consider, working with children and, AR, VR? And she was like, I would definitely make technology, specifically AR and VR, my minor. I would love to work with children and have them be involved with this technology. Like this is as you said, she who plants a garden plants hope. This has been, people's lives have been blossoming and blooming and wonder and curiosity and innovation. This has been an incredible project. Jason, talk to us about the VR.
So a couple things. I think the idea, the choice to use volumetric capture, which is full 360 3D video of a real person and being able to put that into a physical space with AR helps make you have a visceral reaction person. You stop, you listen, you can't multitask your way through things. You're not looking at things through a small screen with a bezel around it. That person is there in the space with you. And so to take what happened in the AR space and to move that into a VR space, a virtual reality space where your environment is completely new and digital, was another way of making a true, authentic connection. And I think what was really sort of, I think the whole spirit and ethos of this is about authenticity, about letting the people come through and make the connection for you. And as someone who's worked on the project through different phases and through different capture points, I know that my partner who's actually in that video that we showed up there, like have gotten to see and feel like we have a deeper connection to people in the family, because not just because we met them in person, but because we've shared spaces with them. We've shared both, physical spaces in the augmented reality space and also the virtual spaces. So for the VR section, I thought it was a really interesting place, and give people here a chance more to go in a little bit deeper here. But that sense of creating a shared space where multiple people can be in a virtual reality scene, but still have volumetric captures of the real person, real family members talking to you about their memories and experience of Breonna, which help to build a story of who she is. She's there, but not there, because she's the only person like in that experience who isn't a volumetric capture, because frankly, she's not available to be captured. Right? She's not a person that we can get to anymore. And so we're told the story of who she is, who she was, and who she really still is by the people around her, by her family members. And I thought that one of the really cool things was, while we see a lot of virtual reality spaces, sort of fantastical scenes, and there is this fantastical scene, you walk through a garden, and as you move through the garden, you hear different stories. There's this one space, and I really want to hear from Lady Phoenix, especially about the capture session for this, where we chose to pair volumetric capture to the real person, a 3D person talking to you, full life size. They're there with you in that space, in a space that was actually a real space. And this is Miss Tamika Palmer, Breonna's mother, Jania's mother, has a room that's dedicated to Breonna. And so it's this room that's filled with everything that people have donated to the family since her passing. And Lady Fee, like, you talked to us about this. You talked to us about this space. And when you mentioned that would be a really great space, that helped make the choice of bringing it to VR like super easy. You want to talk a bit about like going in that space and capturing, and sort of how that kind of came together and what that does for the experience?
Absolutely. Thanks for setting it up. I know the volumetric capture and high fidelity video and all of this is a really big topic and of great interest to people. So initially, before I went to Sutu and decided on AR, we had talked about the possibility of this being VR. I wanted, again, the cocoon experience. I wanted Jania to feel like she could shut the outside world out and have Breonna to herself in the way that she experienced Breonna and remembered Breonna. And that wasn't possible at the time. So the evolution of the project, I thought, well, I want to still have this cocoon-like experience, bring in the volumetric capture, so that, as you said, Jason, the person is really there with you. You can't get distracted because it feels like there's a real person talking to you, because they're 360 3D. They are real. You can walk up to them and see the pimple on their face if you wanted to. You can walk behind them and see their ponytail. And all of that inside a very beautiful environment too, something that's colorful, something that's lively, cotton candy skies. I believe in the future that, this will be really regular. People will, in a Dia de los Muertos sort of way, go to a metaverse-like experience to remember their loved ones, but also to be held by the stories of others as they remember their loved one. From an unborn child, like Chyna said, to, there's a woman in there who's an artist and her mother has Alzheimer's. She isn't physically departed yet, but her mind and who this woman grew up with her mother being, that person is no longer there due to Alzheimer's. And so she left a message in the garden about her mother. And to hear that message, the message of the father with the unborn child and the other messages for Breonna in an enclosed environment, with these from real people, like Kenny sharing about the first time Breonna got her car because she loves cars, and she was in a car club and had her name on the back and butterflies all over the car. And he tells a story about the first time she drove the car and they were together. Miss Tamika shares a story, about the first time Breonna, was a nurse at 7 years old. And so having those experiences with real people up close and personal, it not only does something in the mind where you're like totally blown away, but simultaneously it's working on the heart. And these stories are embedded like little seeds into the soil of your heart. And there's the thing that grows from that is something good. You leave the experience feeling changed, feeling good, feeling different, feeling more informed, feeling softer. And so, not exactly sure what your question was anymore, Jason, but that's what I wanted to say in response.
I think it's awesome. Maybe just to build on that a little bit, and that's really, Ms. Palmer has a room in her house, and it's the Breonna room. And you had described it to us before I ever got to see the photogrammetry part of it, but just that sense of that there's a room there where Breonna lives in her house with them, and it's this collection of everything that's around them. And then to have a volumetric capture of Ms. Palmer in a room, and in that room, you as a viewer you described about getting to know people, and you think about those stories that are around them. Every single object in that room has its own story that you don't necessarily hear all the stories, but you feel the stories, and you feel Ms. Tamika talk about Breonna as she knows them, and you cannot help but be in that one room and not be changed. You say people come away softer. I totally believe that, but like you cannot be in that room with a mother and surrounded by the memories of her daughter, talking about the life and the happiness of her daughter, and not be changed. I'll leave it there for other people to comment on. But that for me was a super powerful part of the VR part.
Absolutely, and I'm glad you brought that up. So the idea behind bringing people into the home, I asked Miss Palmer, or Miss Tamika, as she's known to us, where do you go when you miss Breonna the most? Is it a place? Is it somewhere you go in your mind and in your heart? What is that experience like for you, and what does that look like? And she said, I go to the Breonna room. And I said, what is that? And she described it. And then after speaking to Janaya and then speaking again to Miss Tamika, I said, would you be okay with us coming to your home and capturing this room and putting it in the metaverse? And she said, I understood everything you said until you got to metaverse, and then I realized I don't know what you just said. And she's like, where do you want to put this? And so I broke it down for her, and she was like, oh yeah, I feel like I've heard about this before. And she was like, you know what, Lady Phoenix, so far everything has been great. And I've seen the way Janaya has changed. She was totally depressed, initially when you guys began this project. She wasn't talking. She wasn't doing much of anything. She was a bit lifeless and hopeless. And this project has given her hope. I've seen her change. So you know what? If it's the metaverse, okay, let's do it. Let's do it. I'm with being in the metaverse. And so yeah, we drew it out conceptually, showed her pictures of how it would be, went to the home, and rearranged the photos a little bit, rearranged the room. And she said, I hope you took pictures of the room before, because I expect you to put it back exactly how it was. And I looked at Janaya, and she said, she's not kidding. She really expects that. I took photos, don't worry. And they said, okay, great. And after, after it was done, after we captured it photogrammatically, I, took a video to show her what the room looked like. And she said, actually, I really like the way you redid the room. So yeah, go ahead and leave it. Don't worry about it. It was the biggest, I felt like sweat drop right. Miss Tamika is no joke. Okay. She's a no nonsense, very all business, straightforward person. And so, plus she's the mom of Breonna, so I didn't want to go into her actual home, and basically the Breonna room is her heart, right? So by capturing this and adding it to the garden experience, I wanted folks to have the opportunity to step into Miss Tamika's heart, to step into the heart of the family, and also see, Breonna's baby pictures, Breonna's parts of, her journal are in there, her actual house keys to the apartment where she took her final breaths. Those keys are in that experience in the Breonna room as well. Yeah, so there's a lot there, and it's for me, it's the purest opportunity for people to have a living room session, so to speak, with the family in a way that's totally respectful, because no one is ever going to that home. No one is going to get the opportunity to step into Breonna's family home and know her or experience her or see her the way the family does. And so with technology being able to allow us to do that in the most respectful, compassionate ways, I was like, yeah, we have to do this. And it's great because no one thought it was going to work at first.
Yeah, and she was like, you want to do what now? You want to put photogrammetry and volumetric capture in alt space? Okay. Okay, yeah, we got it. All right. Jason? I think we got this.
Chyna and Jason were like, we're going to work it out. Everybody else was like, how well do you know Lady Phoenix? You sure you want to stake your career on trying to put photogrammetry and volumetric inside of alt space?
Yeah.
Because I'm letting you know now it's not going to work. And then it worked, and everybody was like, you guys are brilliant. This is amazing.
Yeah. It was awesome.
So yeah, we've this project has allowed us to see ourselves in new ways, but also to see technology in new and innovative ways, and in a way that, again, where compassion and love and wellness and healing and safe spaces to grieve are at a premium, right? And those are actually services now for humanity in a way that they kind of weren't before 2020. Like I don't know a lot of people who are thinking about these technologies in these ways, especially when it relates to a story like Breonna's. A lot of times these stories are people's hashtags, say her name, and all of this stuff, and then it kind of fades away. And every year it's like, oh, that's so sad that happened. But now the name Breonna Taylor is becoming a technology in a sense where now the name Breonna Taylor is associated with innovation, with love, with the future, with healing, with wellness, with optimism, with care, with family, with possibility. Instead of, a girl who got shot by the police. That shift in context and in perspective is huge. And it really makes a difference moving forward on especially people from marginalized groups, how they see technology, how they use technology, how they relate to this technology. And so, yeah, this has been an incredible experience. And then allowing, with Breonna being known as the caregiver or, the healer in the family, allowing Breonna to fully live into her purpose, even though her time, on Earth was cut short. Many don't know that she was actually awarded her nursing degree posthumously. So she's technically a nurse now. And for this project, as her namesake, to be used as a tool and technology for healing, feels like we're mending the hoop for Breonna. And so that's, for me, that is the biggest, I was going to say takeaway, but that feels like a little too technical. It's not just a takeaway. It's a gift. Actually, it's a gift we didn't know we were getting. And so
I think I see one of the questions in here is around designing the experience, and what this kind of brings to mind in the VR space is something that you recognize when we put Miss Tamika's Breonna's room into the experience. We realized we wanted a level of gravity and seriousness that comes with that. Can you speak a little bit about the how many people were allowed in the room at one time, to moving to the garden, and kind of how that came together?
Yeah, definitely. We with visiting the experience in VR, I wanted it to be one person at a time, because when you're in the room, Miss Tamika's already in there. So there's her physical presence, or her digital physical presence. And then there's also, the pictures and mementos and awards of Breonna everywhere. So she's also, in a sense, in the room. My thought was that if we allow multiple people in the space, folks will automatically change their behavior because someone else is observing them or watching. But if they're in there by themselves, with a similar energetic reverence to being inside of, a holy place, whether it's a temple, mosque, church, it would allow people to be, again, disarmed. It would allow people to be vulnerable in a safe way. And it will allow people to take their time with what they're seeing, what they're experiencing, and also what comes up for them mentally and emotionally. Wanted to give people an opportunity to be present, like fully radically present in the space, and not move through like it was Disneyland. So that's why one person at a time.
And it made for such a powerful experience because when you have this culmination in the garden, you experience it with other people. It's probably my favorite thing. It's like a little surprise that you're kind of not alone in experiencing this, but kind of leaving another realm and entering this completely saturated and rich, beautiful garden. And one of my favorite memories that I'll carry with me always is meeting in the garden. So when we were working on the project together, Lady Fee, and we would just schedule a meeting and then meet in VR. And I don't know where you were in the world at the time, but we were all in different places. And this being a unifying place, that we're also just like, looking at the flowers, like how can that flower be different or better, or how can it shimmer or be more realistic? We were looking at the ground and the sky, and I felt presence.
Definitely.
There with you and the rest of the team. Do you want to speak a little bit to that?
Yeah, actually, one great memory that comes to mind, I saw in the question someone was asking about the design and the story. I think really quickly I want to say that the story really is a story of love, right? It's a love story, ultimately, Breonna's Garden. And it's a story of two sisters who were separated by death, but reunited by life and flowers and blooming. And sort of the effervescence of love continued beyond physical flesh into digital flesh, as it were. And one of my favorite memories of being in the garden with the team was this idea of smelling the flowers. And, so this is a design aspect that gave us a great laugh. We were thinking about how folks could transport or teleport to different aspects of the garden experience. And we had all kinds of funny, but a little bit clunky ideas. And someone who Microsoft brought in from BRC, Big Rock Creative, her name is Athena. She said, how about smelling the flowers and talk about presence? It's like, wait, what? Of course, of course we can smell the flowers in the garden. And so through smelling the flowers in the garden, the person would be teleported to a different experience in the garden. So in terms of design and the story, we're thinking about this in real life aspects as if we're really there, right? Because in like being present and then also presence, it felt like we were all together. And if we're all together walking through a garden, we're going to literally smell the flowers. And so we brought that aspect in, and it was a neat way to sort of allow people to do what they would normally and naturally do in a garden, especially in a group of people, being curious and wandering around and kind of having this childlike openness to being there, to like, oh, now this actually does something with the tech. I can actually move through the experience by smelling the flowers. And so, yeah, that's that's one little behind the scenes story of how we made some of our design choices.
One of the design choices that I love also in the garden is this interaction of people being able to share their own memories of loved ones, and how that also like populated the virtual garden. And I feel like so much of XR, so many XR experiences that that I've experienced, I feel like they're happening to me, and there's not necessarily a way that I can contribute to the space. And I love that that was a design choice from the beginning, was an invitation for people to contribute to the garden, to add to the flowers, to add voice to the experience, which was also risky, right? Especially, you know, in light of what you shared, Lady Fee, of some of the trolling and harassment that Breonna's Garden has experienced. And I wonder, and I know Chyna, you've really leaned into this, and we're in a group right now working on responsibility and safety in the metaverse. And just wonder if you all want to speak more to that and what happened there, and how did we ensure that that was a safe space while it was an open invitation for people to contribute? How did we ensure safety there?
That's a great question, and thank you for bringing that up, because I'd love to speak to it. It's actually one of the most important parts of this project. And also, just a little aside, some behind the scenes knowledge. So before it was called Breonna's Garden, I wanted to call it The Invitation. So the idea was that if people are intentionally invited to participate with technology in a way that serves them, in a way that reflects a need, that the behavior would be different in that environment. Anyway, that was a whole other thing. And I'm like, there's another way to reach those same conclusions without, again, being super obvious, calling it The Invitation. So thus Breonna's Garden was born. And one of the major concerns, of course, was safety. Because, you know, they weren't just being, Janiyah wasn't simply being threatened online. People actually also showed up to their house in Louisville. They've since moved, but yeah, it was really risky and dangerous in 2020, especially to be doing anything Breonna Taylor related. And so we use, I'm forgetting their name now, but they are a safety group that deals specifically with XR. And I think they're called the XR Safety Group. I think they have a bigger name, but essentially they're known as the XR Safety Group. And they volunteered initially to screen all the messages. And so we have a repository where all the messages end up. I, myself, Sutu, and the XR Safety team go through the messages, and the ones that we've okayed, some of them end up in the garden. Yeah, so that's in short how that all happened. Chyna, Dahlia, Jason, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, actually. So the XR Safety Initiative, Kavya Perlman is the head of. I understand partnered with you all. And what's really beautiful is once that message is submitted, it goes through a review system in the cloud, and moderator has the opportunity to approve or reject that message. And once you approve it, you release this flower. It has the ability to bloom in the garden. And so that's kind of the behind the scenes mechanism of how it's growing via APIs. And, you know, the fun, you know, really powerful fact is, since it's launched, we haven't received a single disparaging remark in the system.
Very
and
true.
I think it's the way that it's set up that it doesn't motivate you to want to do that. You want to contribute because we all have this desire to connect. And when you're leaving something behind, it's very clear, at least to me, that you're leaving a little bit of a legacy. And there's honor in that. But maybe that's me reading into it a bit.
We're getting near the end, but there is one question from the chat that I'm also really interested in getting all of your thoughts on. And that is sort of like, what's next? I think Vanessa asked, like, what are different possibilities that Breonna's Garden offers, or from all of you that have been so involved in this amazing project, like, what are your hopes and dreams and goals moving forward? I mean, it's already accomplished so much, but continuing to move forward, what do you want to see happen with this project? Or maybe do you have plans for other projects like it?
Lady Fee, we're going to default to you on this one. Did we lose Lady Fee?
Oh, no, I'm here.
Oh, okay.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, now we can.
Okay. My hope for the project is that more people will join the garden. My vision for the future and for this project as it expands is that every family will have their own garden, and will be able to do something similar for their loved ones in themselves. Again, there are many traditions that exist. I think as a world, so I'll say this, the foundation of that idea is that our world is fundamentally different now. Again, not everyone quite realizes it, but we are new creatures in a new epoch. And so we will have to reconcile with some of the histories that we've had, and the way those histories have impacted our humanity. I think that we'll leave some of those histories in the past, in the dust, and create new narratives, new ideas of our humanity, new ways of being through narrative. And so one of those new ways will be how we deal with both the idea of death and the idea of life. The older cultures here on the planet have their ways of doing that. One such more popular way is the Dia de los Muertos within the Mexican cultures. I think that those who are of a metaverse culture, I'm trying not to sound too weird here, but those of us who are more from a metaverse culture will create new traditions and experiences for ourselves. And I think that this garden can inform the way we protest, the way we assign justice, the way we seek justice, the way we deal with both birth and this idea of death or transition or ascension into, the next stages of our lives. Right now, the way we think about death here in the States, and sort of the way our spaces for death, funeral homes and cemeteries and all of that, I think that I think that people are seeking new ways to express themselves and to express tradition, and want new traditions. And I think that the Breonna's Garden serves as a great opener to how we can create new traditions and opportunities with the tools we have that create impact. For example, in 2020, because we couldn't go anywhere due to COVID, people had to think about birth and death in really different ways. And most of the birthdays I went to, or birthing announcements or death announcements, were all on Zoom. And I had 2 aunts that passed away during COVID, and we had their ceremonies on Zoom. And it really it changed something in me, and impacted me deeply. And that impact certainly informed a lot of Breonna's Garden, and will inform the evolution of the project. I hope I answered that in a way that you got it.
I think you did. I want to say thank you to all of you for joining us today in this conversation around the making of Breonna's Garden. Thank you, Lady Phoenix, for giving us an opportunity to be your technical partner, and helping this vision come to life through volumetric capture and putting all of these little pieces together to tell this incredibly powerful story. Thanks, Jason Waskey from Mixed Reality Capture Studios, and Dr. Perez on the DEI side of things. It's been a treat. I hope y'all have a good week.
Thank you, Chyna. And I just want to say that Microsoft at large, Dr. Perez, you, Chyna, and Jason weren't just technical support. You guys, there's a little something extra. I'm calling it the intelligence of the heart. I think that maybe people call that soft skills, right, in the corporate world, but I think it even goes beyond that. It's something you can't necessarily teach. Honestly, it's something you have, or you know that you have it, and you continue to refine it. Without that something extra, the je ne sais quoi, this project wouldn't have had the impact that it had, not just on us internally as the gardeners, but certainly on the rest of the world who's experienced this. So I want to say thank you so much. You were beyond technical partners for us. You were true, literal partners who helped carry this project into the world, and without you would not be possible. So you have my deepest gratitude. Thank you so much for that something extra that's necessary as we become new humans and new humanity and make new agreements about who we want to be and the future we want to make. You guys definitely have that something extra that that we need in the future, and that creatives like me need to bring projects like this to light. So thank you truly from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.